or the fifth.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going to Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vanderbonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And I have a confession to make.
Uh-huh.
I've still not seen The Rise of Skywalker for
a second time?
For a third time.
Oh!
I've seen it twice, but it's been a long time. I saw it twice in the first weekend, and I promised I would see it a third time and go in there with a more critical eye, and I have not had a chance to do that. I'm kind of afraid to go. I really did enjoy the movie the first two times I watched it. I did it was before I kind of read all the stuff online, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the hard. You're going to ask me the tough questions today in the episode. So
I've condensed I cheated a little.
Okay.
I had a list of probably 50 questions, and I was like, oh, and then I was
50 questions.
Oh yeah. But I was just crushing them down into 10, and one of them is like a question with some sub questions, but it's essentially the same topic. So there's 10 questions with maybe a few follow ups, and to me they're the big things that one might have expected, and there's even some other big ones that didn't make my 10 list. But they're the 10 big things that I think when I think back to the film, and I think what needs more of an explanation, what doesn't make any sense, what happened. I've only seen it once, so I've probably thought about it more per viewing than I've ever thought of another Star Wars movie.
Well, I want to go back. I do want to kind of see it with more of a critical eye, but But I did I truly did enjoy it the first couple times I saw it. We did go to the movies, but my youngest, who did see it with me the second time I saw it, Luke came with me to see it that time. The other two didn't, and this time the other two wanted to see it. Luke didn't want to see it again. He did not want to do a repeated viewing, so we saw Jumanji 2, as I discussed in the previous episode of Media Nerds. So before we get into that, of course, I've got some Star Wars clickbait.
Oh, Jabba.
What? How? What are you talking about? Huh?
What? Goodness gracious me.
And I'll let you decide which of these are multiple headlines for the same story.
I think I got pulled into one.
You tell me which one of these is more clickbaity. Right. First headline: Colin Trevorrow's reportedly leaked Star Wars script is a huge contrast to Rise of Skywalker.
Could that actually be true?
Well, here's another one. Oh, there's a bunch.
I read that, by the way. I read it, and I thought it could be true.
Star Wars 9 new leaked script reveals film would have been wildly different to The Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars leak reveals Colin Trevorrow's original plot and title for Rise of Skywalker. I think that one is like the best, most non-clickbaity.
And it was Duel of the Fates, apparently.
That was going to be the name of the, an old Rise of Skywalker script shows many big differences. There's a clickbait article for you. There's a clickbait headline. That's from Nerdist. So this is the story. Yeah, so we don't know if it's real or not.
It's on Reddit.
So someone leaked the script. And it would have been a completely different story. It would have been a different name. They would have had, what are some of the things? They would have had Rey continue to be nobody, right? There was not going to be any connection there. But the big reveal would have been that Kylo Ren killed her parents, which I think would have been a pretty good
That's
reveal,
a good reveal.
Right? That's a good kind of mind-blowing thing. And then the plot would have kind of centered around them trying to steal a Star Destroyer or something. I don't know. I didn't read all of the details here.
That was a Finn and Poe side story.
Yeah.
Although what I thought when I read those sort of plot points was, they're vague enough that this could be true or fake.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It could have been someone who just came up with, here's what I would have done, right? Anybody could come up with this. So I don't know how much credence we should lend this. I don't know.
Calling it Duel of the Fates sounds like it could have happened. I mean, I actually think...
that's the name of a song, I don't know. That's going to make us think of Anakin.
I actually thought that the better title for the last movie was The Final Order.
Ah, yes.
Which is, he gives the final order. It is the final of the we're told, of the Skywalker saga. That could have easily been the title. It pisses me off just a little. Remember when I said to you, you don't call it The Rise of Skywalker and not have Luke Skywalker alive at the end.
Yeah.
And yet they did.
Yeah.
And which I don't know. I don't think I agree on. And the equivalent would be search for Spock, and the ending is we didn't find him. Right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So
they found Spock. Spoiler alert, they find him.
I don't think The Rise of Skywalker is the best title for what the movie actually shows us. And particularly then, it really puts too much emphasis on the final scene of the movie, I think.
Yeah, and but it's also like a misleading title. It's kind of something that's meant to send people down the wrong path as far as speculation is concerned, and keep people surprised or something. I don't know what the ultimate goal of that is, but you're right. It does not really describe what the movie is, right? You take out that final scene of this, the title does not make sense.
No,
and you could take out that final scene and have it still be a movie. Like it still would be a complete movie. You don't need that final scene in it. So,
but I think the double meaning would have made that title more valid, being what she does at the end, and also Luke coming back in some way. Yeah, not just being a Force ghost, but I mean rising. Okay, Qui-Gon was the first one who discovered there's life after death, according to Yoda. In that one scene, maybe Luke is the first Jedi who can return to...
So does that mean that we never see anything previous to any of this timeline, Old Republic and all that stuff? There's no Force ghosts at all? Is that do they hold to that?
One of the questions I cut from my list of questions was, why those Force ghosts, or why did she hear those voices? Was there no other voice that somehow managed to figure out the trick?
No, I think that that was pure fan service. We wanted to hear the familiar voices in there. Like when I heard Sam Jackson, I was like, "Oh, it's Mace Windu. That's awesome." So I think,
but I thought we were gonna see them. So
that would have been better.
Awesome.
That would have been better. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I just, whether or not this is a legitimate script or not, the fact is they didn't make the movie. They fired Colin Trevorrow. Why they fired him, I don't know. He was not doing very well at the time. I remember his other Book of Henry movie had just come out, and that did not do very well.
And that Jurassic Park he did as a piece of garbage.
Yeah, but it was financially successful. I don't think they're judging it based on that, because that movie did well. Financially, I know it sucked. I hate that movie.
What a piece of garbage!
But I don't think that's how they judge these things in Hollywood.
Do you think it's real?
I do. I don't. No, I don't think it's a real script. I don't think it matters if it does or not. But at the same time, basically, what they're saying is that fans aren't happy with this movie. Many fans are not happy with this movie. Here's a better version of it, and you see that all the time. Like I saw an article that someone had fixed Robert De Niro's face in The Irishman to look better, to look younger, to look like more like Robert De Niro did when he was young, and they did it with Photoshop or something really simple. So people are always out to prove that Hollywood doesn't know what it's doing in a lot of cases. So I think that's just another example of this.
And I guess the Oscar nominations are another example.
Well,
I guess that's another chat.
The Oscar nominations did come out this week. What was
Star Wars? Star Wars got nominated.
Best score?
I think it's John Williams for sure. Yeah. And I think sound editing.
Okay, it usually gets for stuff like that. Wait a sec.
I heard that it got 2, but was it also not special effects? Because that would give it 3.
I don't know.
It got more than Avengers Endgame. That's all I know. Which is kind of funny, actually.
It is, considering how many special effects are in there.
I think I read it got 2, but maybe they're talking about the movie got 2 and Williams got 1. Is that?
Well, the Williams one would still count.
Yeah, sure it would. And I bought that soundtrack, by the way. I've got every Star Wars soundtrack.
Sound mixing, music, original score, sound editing. No, is this 3? Original score, sound editing, and visual effects. So
it is a 3.
It's 3. So there you go. I think it's a lock for the score. I don't think you can not. This is John Williams' final thing. You cannot not give him the Oscar for that. And we'll see what the other two are.
He points out in the soundtrack, in the liner notes to the soundtrack to The Rise of Skywalker, John Williams says he is the only composer. He goes, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a composer for over 40 years of his life to write scores. And he said the way he looks at it is it's all part of one big thing. So every one of the soundtracks is part of one massive idea.
Wow,
kind of thing. And
interesting.
So, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's cool. And I've been playing the soundtrack, and as usual, a John Williams soundtrack never disappoints.
No, it's very good. Yeah, that's like one of the strong. Again, similar to The Phantom Menace. Not a great Star Wars movie, but the score is amazing.
It really is. Yeah. And actually, some of those, Attack of the Clones.
They're all good.
The love theme from Attack of the Clones, and there's some amazing stuff. My favorite underrated Star Wars song from a John Williams soundtrack is the Cloud City theme.
Right.
With Lando walking dun 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 dun.
Well, we were trying to stay out of the reach of the Empire. We got a small business, but I've just made a deal that's going to ensure the Empire is out of here forever.
Won't you have a seat? No. I don't. What does he say?
Please, I don't know what he says.
Please.
Won't you join us for dinner? And then Boba Fett steps out. That's it. That's the scene. All right.
And that's when Princess Leia goes, "We're having dinner, and we're the main course." Dun dun dun.
Since we're a small operation, we don't fall into the jurisdiction of the Empire.
So you're part of the mining guild then?
No, not actually. Our operation is small enough not to be noticed, which is advantageous for everybody since our customers are anxious to avoid attracting attention to themselves.
Aren't you afraid the Empire's going to find out about this little operation? Shut you down?
It's always been a danger, but it looms like a shadow over everything we've built here. But things have developed that'll ensure security. I've just made a deal that'll keep the Empire out of here forever.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Okay, let's talk about the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
You have some tough questions.
Yeah.
Are these questions for JJ? Are these for the filmmakers? Or are these just general out in the ether kind of questions?
Well, what I did was, as I say, I've been keeping an ongoing list. Is it 10? Let me just make sure it's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And one of these has many sub-questions because I can't get my friggin' head around something that needs to be explained. So these are things that just crossed my mind. Yesterday, I went through the list of 50 and I cut them down to these. This is the stuff that I'd most answered. So here's question number 1.
In no particular order.
And you're going to try to answer them.
I'm going to try and reason.
Yeah.
I'm coming at this from the filmmaker's perspective, so maybe I can think of the reason why they did these things.
All right. Question number 1. What made The Force awaken in episode 7, now that we've seen all 3?
I think what they mean it to be is Rey. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? That's the line. That's what Snoke says to Kylo Ren. And I think that's meant to be Rey using the Force is what they're trying to do.
Or is it Palpatine? That's when Palpatine came back to life.
Well, you could
oh, no, but there's already Snoke.
And yeah, exactly. And Palpatine, Palpatine was already alive at that point. Yeah. Or was still alive or whatever he did.
I just think if we have a movie called The Force Awakens, at some point, the Force needs to issue a statement to tell us what woke it up.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me, we're going to talk a little bit about the Fallen Order video game probably this episode, and we'll get into it more once I've played more of the game. But the premise of that game, it takes place after the Revenge of the Sith, 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, and there are still Jedi, or the main character is like a former Padawan who was being trained, still a kid when Order 66 came along.
Yeah. So he's a ginger.
He's very very, very nice looking guy. But he uses the Force during a workplace accident, and then within minutes the bad guys are there looking, so they can feel it, right? They can feel it when somebody is using the Force. So that's what they're talking about when they say the Force Awakens. They talk about Rey using the Force to, what does she use the Force to do? To fly the Millennium Falcon? What did she do? When did she use the Force on Jakku?
I don't know if we saw that, did we?
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific thing. It's not even as clear cut. In the video game, there's a very specific, you're using the Force here, and they tell you, and then the bad guys come looking for you. But anyway, yeah. Okay,
then that also, if Snoke says to Kylo, "There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?" Is that just Snoke is a clone, we now know. So Snoke knows, or Palpatine knows what the awakening has been?
Yeah, I don't know.
To me, that's a real tough one, and I would love an answer.
I think it's clear they didn't have that planned out. That's going to be the answer to a lot of these questions. Yeah. They didn't have it planned out. So.
Number 2, and this is a big one for lots of people. How did Palpatine come back to life? Give us the specifics.
Well, okay, here's the thing. And there's a number of theories out there. People are talking about the cloning theory, saying he had a bunch of bodies cloned for himself. They could just transfer his consciousness into. I don't buy that one, because why wouldn't he just do that instead of the whole bit where he's going to go into Rey, that whole thing, right? So I don't think that's it. He falls, so we see him fall down the shaft. Now we see what looks like an explosion, but it's kind of like just electricity that goes up the shaft as So we assume that's him exploding. We don't see that. So say he falls.
It is like a puff of smoke.
Like here's the thing: Luke fell down a very similar shaft in Empire Strikes Back, and he's alive.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe the same thing.
But we saw
maybe
him.
Palpatine was like clinging to a thing underneath the Death Star in the vacuum of space.
But you just pointed out something very interesting. What if in Empire Strikes Back we just saw Luke go down the shaft?
We would assume he died.
And then the Return of the Jedi comes and he's like, "Yep, we're gonna go after Han and we're gonna help him." There's no explanation about what happened.
That's exactly what they've done here. That's exactly what they've done. So we have to assume that he didn't die. He didn't die in that scene as we assumed he did. He managed to get out of there and took off to his planet to meet up with his followers. Okay,
so and I think. Once again, that part pisses me off, but I don't consider that to be a fault of the movie Star Wars, but of a filmmaking decision of a filmmaker named J.J. Abrams who didn't show.
But here's the thing. They say, I've read a number of pieces that say they explain what happens in one of the books. There's a lead-up book.
Yeah.
They explain what happened with Palpatine, which is fine from a canon perspective, but it doesn't help that most of the people who saw this movie are not going to read those books. So that's not a real solution.
And it's also, there's a difference between we're laying out a story and now we're retconning. Now we're going back and retconning something that isn't explained.
You can't explain, you can't assume every single person is going to read every single piece of Star Wars media out there. Right. You have to assume. It's like all those people who thought Darth Maul was still dead after seeing him in Solo. You just have to assume most people see the movies. That's it.
That's right.
So they did not. I think that was just like we'll stick it in a book. That's probably the thinking of it, but that's not good enough for us. Yeah, right? I agree with that. Yeah.
All right. Question 3. This is a big one. Can you force kiss anyone back from the dead?
Well, I don't know if it's back from the dead or if she's on the verge. Was she dead? She was dead. Yeah. She was full on dead, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Very or only the Force dyad?
Yeah. I mean, that could be only because they had that connection that they had. So that seems to me what they're going for there. This whole Force kissing people back to life, again, this is a very big power they're introducing here. And I know Chris Schiffman made a good point where he said, there's no specific number of limited powers you have when you use the Force, but this is a very big thing that we've never seen before, and it seems like there have been opportunities for us to see it.
Right? It could have happened prior.
Yeah.
In theory, Rey could have Force kissed Han Solo back to life.
No, well, he fell off the edge of the thing, though.
Yeah, but he landed on the. So what? So his lifeless corpse.
I don't know that it works that way. Okay, let's assume that it's not about whether or not you die. You can heal wounds with the Force. We've seen that, right? So she heals Kylo Ren before he actually dies. She just heals his wound. And he brings her back to life after she dies, but she dies from expenditure of the Force. That's why she dies. Same reason why Luke died. My question is, and this may be one of your questions, why does Luke disappear? Why does Leia disappear finally after her body sits there under cover for half the movie? And why doesn't Rey fade away when she dies?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have that on my list.
That's because everybody else, when you die, you fade. Right, and it depends on how you die. Obi-Wan got hit by a lightsaber, so Obi-Wan collapses, his cloak collapses. Yoda faded away. A lot of people fade away when they die, right? Because they become one with the Force. So why didn't it happen to Rey? And why did Leia take so long to do? Why did Leia take so long to become one with the Force? Those are my questions. I don't have any answers to that, but anyway, go on.
Okay, here's a little one, but it drives me insane. Why did Kylo Ren bother fixing his helmet?
I don't know. Yeah, he just took it off and then kept it off for the rest of the movie to sell toys for this reason.
Now that I'm
holding up my bobblehead with the new Kylo Ren with the weld marks in it.
Now that I've fixed my helmet, I will put it over here on my collectibles shelf.
It
had to be, right?
Well, he had to, and he saw that. That's right next to his Darth Vader helmet, his melted Darth Vader helmet. Genuine item. But yeah, I don't think that it did seem like kind of a waste. I mean, maybe there were more scenes that he had it on for, and they cut them. I don't know.
Okay,
tough.
My next
group I do like that scene. I like that scene when he puts the helmet together and the monkey guy.
Oh yeah,
that's a great scene. I love it.
Yeah, I like it too. But the more you think about it, the less it's like Spider-Man knitting his whole entire costume, and then you don't see it for the rest of the movie. Aunt May, so thanks for sewing me this costume, Aunt May. And then it's like he never wears it. She's like, Peter, you've never worn that thing I sewed you. Like, you'd think the monkey would go, hey, what happened?
What's going on, man? I thought that was a pretty good job.
Hey, I'm a craftsman. Why don't you wear the helmet I did for you? All right. Okay, so here's the group of questions that all fall into the same subject. We'll call this one question, though. Why did the Emperor make Snoke and then announce he was back anyway? I think
Snoke died. Snoke was killed. That's why.
So then now that you've killed my avatar, I'm going to tell you I've returned. Though I've been in hiding for all these movies. Yeah. All right. How did clone Snoke work his way up to Supreme Leader?
Yeah.
Who was Snoke a clone of? And how many Snokes are we talking about here?
How many Snokes does it take to change a light bulb?
So by the way, this is Steele Saunders' cue to give us some more your Snoke theories.
Oh, it lives on. It lives on.
Still sucks stickers. Let's do it.
Shitty Snoke theories. Well, like I said, I imagine that initially Snoke was meant to be the main villain of the trilogy. Yeah. I think that was JJ's original vision, and then Rian Johnson threw a wrench into that. My question is, why would they let Rian Johnson do that if they had plans? Like, they should have been able to rein him in on that. Although I like that Snoke dies. I like that was a twist that I didn't see coming. So he was meant to be the original villain, and he built the First Order. The First Order was built out of the remnants of the Empire, right? So we get to see the beginnings of it in The Mandalorian, where we see all these little Imperial. I think that we're going to see more of that as we go along in The Mandalorian. But why they didn't just call themselves the Empire again, I don't know. I don't know why they felt they needed a rebrand. Because they all very much look like the Empire. It all looks very much like the Empire.
Why build Starkiller Base, for God's sake?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, whole thing was like...
Okay, that's not one of my questions,
no, but
that's
another question, right?
Why?
Did they make a joke about that in the movie, though? I feel like they made a joke about it. I don't remember. I have to see it again.
Yeah, I need to see it again.
So I think that Snoke was the... after the Empire, Emperor died, quote unquote died, Snoke kind of showed up as I don't know this because I think it's in the Aftermath books, but I think he was like some sort of a admiral or somebody, kind of like Thrawn, kind of off in the middle of nowhere until he died, until the Emperor died, and then he came forward to take control. And I think that what we see is there's all these factions of former Imperial commanders with their troops, and like Gus Fring in The Mandalorian, who have like a huge amount of people around them that command them, but they're fighting for dominance. And then I think Snoke is just the person who won out in that scenario.
Well, and he must have been like employee of the week to work his way up. Like the clone Snoke shows up.
Well, I'm just wondering why did he feel he needed so many hamburgers?
He sells more hamburgers than anybody.
I wonder why they felt they need to have clone Snokes. Like, did they keep dying? What happened there?
Exactly.
Why were there more than one? Or did it take them a couple tries to get it just right? Those are just leftover Snokes. They weren't good enough.
Yeah, and why? I guess the cloning technology is bad, and that accounts for all the scarring and holes.
No. I think those are like were the clones scarred as well? I don't remember.
No, I don't know.
I'll have to see.
The clone Snokes in the bottom.
Yeah, in the tank. Yeah.
Shit, I don't know.
Okay,
we have to look at that.
We'll have to wait till
because the Emperor had brand new smooth baby skin. So I don't know. All right. Okay, the next one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 left.
All right.
Did Chewie ever have any kind of relationship with Ben Solo?
I would like to think so. Did we see any indication of that in the movie?
Nothing.
No. Yeah, I think that was a missed opportunity. That's similar to the not hugging Leia thing.
Right.
That's a missed opportunity because there's been all kinds of cartoons and memes and things on the internet where they show like Chewie. You have to imagine he's Han's best friend. He's Uncle Chewie to Ben Solo, right?
Right.
So they're growing up, they're friends, and then all of a sudden, this one that I saw ends with Kylo Ren killing Han Solo, and then Chewie is like heartbroken. So you'd have to. They should have if it's not like shown in the movie, it's a missed opportunity because they should have. Especially when he goes back to being Ben Kenobi, which we'll talk about, or Ben Solo, sorry.
Yeah.
We'll talk about later. So, I think they should have a relationship, but they don't show it in the movie at all.
All right. Sorry, now there's 4 more.
Okay.
Pardon me, I miscounted
That's
before.
Okay.
Did Rey move? Does Rey now live on Tatooine?
I don't think so. I don't think that's where she was going with that. I think she wanted to somehow Okay, she somehow wanted to bring their lightsabers back to where Luke grew up, like both Leia and Luke's lightsabers back to where Luke grew up. Leia never set a foot on that property. She never was there. This is just the old house where Luke grew up. She buried their lightsabers there and then built her own. And I don't think she stays. I think she goes off to be with the whatever they call the new government now, the new republic, the brand new, the uber new republic,
new formula.
Yeah.
All right. What the fuck is with the Knights of Ren?
Nothing. That was a big disappointment. I think that they look badass. We were very excited. Those sweeping shots of them when they get to that planet and they're like looking over the cliff. There's like these just amazing kind of like, it's like a Michael Bay.
It's like a Darth Maul moment.
Yeah, but it's like very much like a Michael Bay kind of sweeping visual shots. And then they have the one fight scene. I like that fight scene with Kylo Ren. I have to say that every moment we have with Ben Solo in this film, like after he realizes and goes back and he's like from when he says ouch when he falls on the thing to just like his expressions, Adam Driver is amazing at playing that character.
Yeah.
I love every minute with Ben Solo,
too.
including that fight scene with the Knights of Ren. But they didn't really do much other than that. They walked menacingly through the ship. They have their ship has like a really bad exhaust pipe, like their whatever it is does not work because it spews smoke out into the.
I can
into
almost
space.
not remember it.
Like they have a weird looking ship that spews smoke out the back. It's like it's really got bad
gas.
What do they call that part of the
flatulence?
Exhaust or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, it's an issue. But yeah, other than looking badass and offering them more opportunity for toys, that's pretty much all they do.
All right. We learn that stormtroopers are kidnapped babies. Yeah,
children.
Right.
Say children.
But we're very comfortable killing them in big mass numbers and making fun of their inability to shoot.
Yeah.
Should we not have more compassion for the kidnapped stormtroopers?
Yeah, I think so. Although,
couldn't this have been an opportunity too, where the stormtroopers
rise up? See, until we had the Force Awakens, it never occurred to me to think of the stormtroopers anything other than cannon fodder. Like that's all they were, and we were happy to make fun of the way their horrible shooting skills. Because it was true back in the original films, but as soon as we had Finn, we gotta look at sometimes their mental conditioning doesn't work properly and they break out of it. And I think Finn was like the exception to the rule. Most of them are like brainwashed to be stormtroopers, even though they can have regular conversations. So they're not like robots.
That could have been a cool plot. That could have been a cool story arc for Finn. That I somehow broke out of this brainwashing, and I believe that I can make others do it too.
It's weird because we see in the original trilogy, Luke wants to go to the Academy. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the Imperial Academy. He's talking about becoming a TIE fighter pilot. That's where Biggs goes, and Biggs leaves to go to the Rebellion. But that's where they get Wedge out of there as well. But these guys aren't brainwashed. They're just regular guys going to school.
Right.
They're just in post-secondary education. So when do they? I guess it's a first order thing, the brainwashing thing. Like the other stormtroopers were not brainwashed; they were just regular guys. So in a way, that's worse. Right, just killing the regular guys, or is it? No, is it because you're saying they don't have a choice in the matter?
If you're kidnapped,
you don't have a choice
as a baby and brainwashed. Then you don't have a choice, and so I actually think that could have given Finn a good story arc.
Possibly, and maybe he's trying to free some of his buddies or something.
Yeah, right. And actually, in episode 2 or the episode 8. I suggested before that maybe the reason to get Finn off the ship is because he's the one being tracked because he's the former stormtrooper.
Right, he's got some.
That could have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Like the sort of ongoing his relationship or non-relationship with the place he escaped from. So I think we might have missed something.
Yep.
My final question
for now
are the Jedi and Sith no more?
Well, I would say yes until we got the Emperor back, and then he's a full-on Sith. I do like the idea. One of the ideas presented in this film is that all the Sith live in Palpatine and all the Jedi live in Rey. I like that, because he is the only one left. He is the last Sith, basically. Now, I don't know. We don't really ever get any other, I guess, other than Darth Maul and Darth Vader. We don't ever get any other Sith in this timeline, right? And there's tons of stuff going back, Darth Plagueis and all that other stuff, but that's not canon. So I think it is done now that he is dead, for sure, melted away, dead. And I don't think Rey is going to be starting a new Jedi Order at all. She might be training people who use the Force, but it's not going to be called the Jedi. I do believe those two are done for good. That's going to be it for that thing. And I think that the Rian Johnson films I do believe that the whole point of the Canto Bight side trip was to introduce the stable boy with his Force powers, and that's going to be the thrust of the Rian Johnson trilogy.
Although, which is now maybe just a one film.
Oh, is it? Okay, I didn't know that. But
maybe
it's gonna. I think it's gonna be Rey training those. I think we're gonna see. It's gonna be all those characters. It's gonna be Rey, Finn, Poe. But it's gonna be her training those new generation of Jedi. But it's not gonna be called the Skywalker. For some reason, it's not gonna be called the Skywalker saga, even though she is a Skywalker.
I just thought of something funny. What if Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie is Knives Out? That was the Star Wars movie.
I haven't seen it yet. But
no, I haven't either. Everyone loves it, though.
Yeah, I hear it's really good.
Unlike another movie he made, which was more controversial, called The Last Jedi.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, those are good. Those are all good questions.
There's more. I mean, you thought of one, and then Star Killer Base.
We can go on and on. There are a number of videos. I'm going to point people in the direction of the video by a guy called the Nostalgia Nerd, I believe is his name, on YouTube. And he put together a really cool kind of the premise of it. It's a video that he makes and he does it with his friends, and they're all kind of very low budget green screen with like cosplay kind of costumes. And basically, they recreate scenes from The Rise of Skywalker. They must have got to work on it right away because it came out very, very soon after that movie came out. And it's really good as far as the questions. A lot of questions like, why are we doing this? And they have a guy playing JJ who's just trying to keep all the fans happy. We have one group of fans who loves The Last Jedi, one group of fans who hates The Last Jedi. JJ's trying to make them all happy. It's a very good kind of look at why this is the way it is. And I don't think it's, it doesn't all necessarily need to be true, but I think it's a good way to put it all into perspective. And this is what they were trying to do. They're trying to make people happy. They're trying to wrap it up. There was a lot of pressure on them to get this right. Overwhelmingly, people think they didn't get it right. And I do agree with that to some respect. There are definitely a lot of unanswered questions. In typical JJ fashion, I mean, Lost did the same thing, right? But I just,
the cohesion between the three movies was less than what I'd hoped.
Yeah, for sure.
But I get, I like each one of them as a standalone entity.
I agree. I do too.
It's the things that drive me nuts are the things that don't make sense from film to film.
Yeah.
And actually, I could say the same thing about the prequels. That there's things that piss me off about the prequels only because they don't make sense in light of episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Where George did all of them. It's like, yeah, George, did you notice how like Obi-Wan's age is a little questionable? Did you notice some of this stuff?
There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely some issues, and like Leia remembering her mother and blah 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 and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think George Lucas was so happy that he did it for the Luke, I am your father moment, which is something he didn't originally want to do, and he got away with it, and people loved it. So it's like, I'll just keep doing that. I'll just keep retconning. I'll just change it as I go. Right. And then they continued that throughout the new trilogy, where they just kind of, I don't know. I can't imagine what would have gone into their, like, they give Rian Johnson. I mean, I don't mind what Rian Johnson did, but if they had a plan for Snoke, or if they had a plan for the Emperor, why would they not tease it earlier? Why even bother with Snoke if the Emperor is the big bad?
Right.
It could have been Kylo Ren and Hux together reporting to the Emperor over a hologram. We never see the Emperor until the third film.
Yeah, and that would have been, I mean, it would have been mind-blowing to have the reveal of the Emperor in the last episode. Like, remember when we saw...
Yeah, you said that, yeah.
When we saw Luke at the end of Force Awakens, we just like couldn't wait to see Last Jedi, to see what Luke would do, and we could have done the same thing with the Emperor at the end of Last Jedi, and that would have got people insane. Like, they just would have, like, they'd be chomping at the bit for that.
It's very clear that they did not have that plan. Like, Rian Johnson killed Snoke.
Yeah.
Didn't have anybody's permission to do it, but he did it. And then they had to scramble to figure out what was going on. I don't know. I don't know why they would let him do that. It seems weird that they wouldn't have that planned out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. You would want a more kind of cohesive entity going in. But I mean, back in the day, I remember George Lucas apparently edited lots of Return of the Jedi in the original trilogy because it wasn't coming together. Richard Marquand apparently was kind of like, I give up. Like, what? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what this is. That kind of thing.
That film and even the first film was seemed in the editing room. Like, both those movies were, and the only like real perfect one was Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, that's very, and that's probably his thinking going into the prequels was like, I can fix this in post. I'm sure he thought about a lot of that stuff going, I can just fix it in post. But
sometimes that works. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. You just you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the perfect example of that's the Godfather trilogy, where Part 3 clearly what Francis Ford Coppola did was shoot a lot of scenes from far away, people in shadow and stuff, because he wasn't sure what the story was. And then they put the dialogue in later. You can see it.
Okay.
When you watch the film with that.
I've only ever seen that movie once.
Yeah, and it's not anybody's favorite Godfather. It's got some good moments in it.
Oh, sure.
But when you watch that, I think it's the same thing happened to Francis Ford Coppola in that film, where he's like, okay, man, this just is not gelling as a story. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to like dub some dialogue in from far long shots so you don't have to reshoot them.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, it really sticks out like a sore thumb. And like, it's not a terrible movie by any stretch, but you can see sort of like, okay, maybe we needed the story to be like a little tighter before we went to shoot.
Yep.
But sometimes you don't have that choice because the money's there now, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll continue the conversation as far as the Rise of Skywalker goes. And I will see it at some point. I'm gonna maybe set it aside for now because I'm trying to get all the Oscar movies in before Oscars come out. We'll talk about that on Media Nerds.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
In the meantime,
I just watched Kylo Ren in Marriage Story.
Oh, I did too. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we both said we didn't feel like watching it, and we both watched it.
We'll talk about that on Media Nerds. But I want to say you were nice enough to lend me you finished the game, the Jedi Fallen Order. New game came out a couple months ago for Xbox and all the other platforms, and you finished it. How long did it take you to finish it?
It took me longer than I expected. Like I read online somebody said 17 hours or something, and it was way longer than that. It was probably double that. I'd suggest.
Well,
and over the course of like I started over Christmas when I had more free time. And right into the first week of school, it's like 2 weeks of school when I could eke out an hour here, an hour there. So I'm guessing it took me 35 hours.
Based on that, it's going to take me a while.
I started on the hardest difficulty, and I ended on not story mode, but one above that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This game has a story mode where it really doesn't, like, it's really not asking you to play anything. You just have to follow along and get the story. But I've been playing it. I can maybe get an hour in a night around the kids and that kind of stuff. So I played it last night. For those who play the game, you start off in this kind of junkyard planet where you're part of this crew that's dismantling ships. I thought that was really cool. That whole scene was really cool. And that first level is really, really exciting.
Cool. It is.
It's a great train chase. Those are the same kind of trains we see in Solo, right?
Yeah.
Those got double-sided trains. Anyway, so that's a great level. And then you get to the second level where you have to go to this freaking Jedi temple and make your way through a ridiculous amount of caverns and cliffs and all kinds. It's horrible.
Story mode doesn't save you from that either.
No, it's gone.
Because I looked to see, because I got to the point where I was like, will story mode just like fast forward me to where I need? It's like, no. It is hard.
It's not. It's confusing is the problem. So when I get there,
it's hard. It's a hard level, and you don't have any powers yet.
Yeah, but
you can't do anything.
You don't have to kill the. Okay, so you got a couple different kinds of monsters down there. Yeah. There's a giant one that's impossible to kill.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill it though. I didn't know that. I'm like, I got to kill this guy because I couldn't find anywhere else to go, and I thought, okay, it's waiting for me to kill it. So I finally freaking kill it, and then it didn't get me anything. So then,
then you could just run by it.
Yes,
it turns out.
That's the point of it is to run by it. So there's definitely an opportunity to go around it. But my frustration was I finally get to the temple, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to hit the temple. Now I'm going to get to move through the temple and go through all these levels of the temple and do all that. Nope, that's it. You get in there, watch a hologram, and that's it.
You go back later. Guess what?
Yeah, because I have to go to a different planet right now.
That's right.
So then my big frustration is I get out of that temple. I'm like, okay, now I got to go back to the ship. Shit, do I have to go all the way back through the way I came? And so I get out of there and I look ahead and I see one of those giant monsters ahead of me. Mm-hmm. Okay, crap, I got to run. So I run off to the side and end up going back the way I came because it lets me go back the way I came.
Yes, it does.
And I got lost down there and I kept retracing. I spent at least an hour wandering around in there until I figured out how to get out. And the secret is you have to walk straight, get around that beast and keep going until you get to this like skeleton in the cliff or whatever.
Yes.
But that it's like there's no obvious way, and I know it's a game and you want to be challenged by it, but they should at the very least block off where you have already been so you don't accidentally go back that way.
Not just that, but how about like there's different force meditation points where you can save the game. Fast travel from one of those to the other.
Yeah.
Like just doing that would create far more fun in the game. Then nobody wants to just be trapped, and particularly at the beginning of when you start, because later on, like I went back to that map later on.
It tells you,
and you're like pushing bridges down, and you're doing all that stuff. You can't do it the first time you go there, and why torture you on the very first level of the game, essentially, or second level. The first one's like a tutorial.
First one's like a tutorial. So I agree.
It's hard.
It is tough, but
the story is fantastic.
Yeah, the story's good and everything. I'm enjoying that part of it. But yeah, some of the game mechanics, I don't love that map. The map makes no sense to me. It doesn't
it's
show
a bad map.
It doesn't show me where it shows like multiple levels. It doesn't show me where I should go.
Nope.
It's just not really well put together. So I'm having fun with it. I am looking forward to playing it tonight when I get home, and I have that kind of in the back of my head. But I'm not like, I was ready to turn it off. I'm like, okay, I got to get back to the ship. So I looked it up. Even the tutorial couldn't help me because I'd already gone so far off track I didn't know where I was.
You're right.
So I had to make my way back to the beginning of the temple, back to that first part. And I'm like, I'm back where I started. Then I turned around, I saw the monster there. I'm like, well, maybe I could just run past him. So I did that, and that's when I found where I was supposed to go. But it was such a wasted time. Like I spent at least an hour last night doing that.
Oh, it is and later on, the game gets better as you go along because you get force powers and you get to learn stuff.
You can customize your lightsaber and kind of stuff like that.
But even that's neither here nor there. I don't even care about that. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't add to any of the gameplay.
It's just a customization.
It's the skills that you add that actually make that.
So can you give me some advice then that you can push your way to force? Lightsaber skills or just life skills? Which way should I go first?
All of them are like, there's some lightsaber skills like that are useless, that are basically like really you're gonna hold down X and Y at the same time 3 times, like that kind of stuff where you're never gonna. So what I tended to do was, it's good to have force powers built up, and it's good to have life, as much life as you can possibly get. And once you do that, the game gets better. And then by the end of the game, I think I had all but one skill. I think, and then
you do fill it all out.
And I was
eventually.
like, fine. Fine. I don't need to get all the skills. I don't care. So basically, just kind of running around, I ended up being able to upgrade to everything.
Now this game,
I don't think it matters what order. And you get force pull and push and wall run and some of that stuff just through the course of the game.
Well, that's what I got all that stuff from. I got the wall run from the.
Yeah, you get it from.
I like the little flashbacks. I like the little flashbacks when he's a kid. Yeah, all the story elements are really good. You got a ship and a droid and all the familiar Star Wars tropes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting idea. 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, it is canon. So whatever happens here will play through. Maybe we'll get it referred to in other things. Probably not though.
There is some great stuff in the storytelling. I have to say, it ends big. The game ends big, and it ends at a point that's so big that. When I went back to the maps to collect some of the stuff that I missed the first time, it kind of felt like, why am I doing this?
Okay.
It felt a little bit anticlimactic.
I see. Okay.
There's nothing really to go back and collect that makes the game incredible or better. So there's a few issues, but I mean, once again, the story, like any Star Wars fan, I would recommend you play the game because the story is shockingly good, and there's lots of great stuff that happens in the game. It's just that first level, man.
I'm glad
what
I'm done
a tough
now.
one.
I'm done. Now, should I go to Dathomir or go to the other place?
Dathomir, what's the other one?
I don't remember.
Or is it Kashyyyk?
No, it wasn't Kashyyyk yet.
Okay.
Some other planet I've never heard of. I kind of want to go to Dathomir because I like that. I like those guys.
What's on Dathomir again? I'm getting it mixed up.
That's where Darth Maul's race is from.
Oh.
So I don't know.
That's it's they're all the maps have a certain level of complexity to them. So I'm going to say that one does, but there's things you can do there.
Do I end up going to both? Is that the...
You got to go back anyway.
Okay. So I'll do it all.
And the other one of the most frustrating ones to get back to your ship is the one you start off and there's 2 hangars. You get off the ship. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No. Okay. I haven't been there yet.
All I'm going to say is when you get, there's a platform and there's a hangar on the left and there's a hangar on the right. And it's all fun and games until you enter the town. And then you realize, I'm never coming back from this town. I got to press forward. Okay, so I'm going to say that one will cause you...
So you say, remember where you parked is what you're saying.
You can't... Well, it doesn't matter if you remember because you are not getting back there the easy way. You're getting back there the hard way.
Oh, no. All right.
But it's good. A good game that could be better.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
That's Jedi Fallen Order, and that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadewonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Going to the Toshi station to pick up